Hi. Unfortunately, you really have to focus on me. I don't have a presentation, I don't have slides, but I want to start with a story anyway. I think how many of you just scrolling on my phone last week and something was recommended, jeans, crop top, tattooed woman. It's my work, so yeah, let's check it out. But why is this content recommended? So she seems to be US American, speaks English. Yeah, so I wanted to get a tattoo to find the right man. And the video irritates me a little. And I wonder what's happening. So I read the comments, can't resist, and I see what's up there. There's a lot of anger. There's men who say, yeah, that's right. And others that say, no, I don't like that. Women that say, no, you have to do it for yourself. You have to believe in yourself. It's like a war in the comment section. It's like independent life. And something felt wrong with me. And I shared it amongst a few friends, a few influencers I'm friends with. A few are in the US. And I shared this feeling, what's happening here? And they, after a bit back and forth, they said, well, I think it's a deep fake. Aha. So, yeah, it might be. And it's actually a reel that was just invented for rage baiting. So they want to provoke anger and to create engagement. I wasn't the only one, and I interacted with it. I shared it with a few people and discussed it. And the fact is that just 24 hours later, I saw that 50,000 more views were on the counter. And I thought, well, mission accomplished. Rage bait was working. 50,000 more views. 600,000 all in all, I think. This is our new reality. This is the current state of social media. Not for everyone, but for many people. It's happening. And why I want to tell this story is not because I want to scare you, but I want to show something paradoxical, something that I saw in the comment area and why the video was made. Because one of our greatest strengths as humans is also a great weakness in digital spaces, our being human and our humanness. What leads me to that sentence is that I'm lucky to work with 50 influencers over the past 3 years, always in smaller groups. I take them to Washington, I take them to Germany, and we talk a lot about what's the core of politics. And they are not political influencers. It's a really diverse group. Food, travel, sports, a few of them politically active because it's just a good spread. But I take them to the centers of power. I took them to the Bundestag in Germany. I took them to the Capitol in the US. And we discuss about NATO, security, AI. So they're not just producing content for their niche, but they're quite widely spread. And it's really interesting to see what they have to say. But what was always interesting is that we not only talked about politics and political topics, but also authenticity. We talked about power a lot. And I learned, and I put it in one sentence, the ability to trust, to feel emotions, to make a connection that makes us vulnerable. And the problem is not that we feel. The problem is that there's many actors with their own agenda. If it's politicians, if it's someone who wants to sell us misinformation, if it's someone who just wants to make money, they know how to make us feel using social media with the methods available there, and that they use this power systematically to sell something or monetize something or just bring out their convictions. And what I learned in those 3 years, or what I noticed, is that we lost control over our digital spaces. But I don't believe that that's a one-way trip. I think we can gain them back. We can conquer them back. And that's the goal, more or less. So I want to talk about the parasocial reality we live in. Why am I saying this? Because online we are following a lot of people we never met, people whose opinion we like and we feel connected to them, content creators, influencers, and so on. And when the first time I flew with 16 influencers to Washington, I thought that I bring people who really shared their niche, their expertise, and I bring those people to political experts. What I didn't think was that that those people already have more influence on the public opinion than many politicians, because influencers usually feel like family, like friends. A YouTuber who makes us laugh, an activist who is really convicted. So I follow people I don't personally know, but they are really influential on my reality. So some scientists call this parasocial connection. So one-way connections to people I don't really know, and they are the reason why social media works that well, because they are always producing content. Because if we trust someone, we don't just believe them, we feel it. And for platforms, those content creators and influencers are really, they are lucky to have them, because they enable the platforms to monetize those connections, because those connections cause us to stay on the platforms for longer. So we see more ads. This principle of user retention, that's the highest priority of platforms. How can I keep users on my platform? And that's even more important to them than societal benefit. And that it has to be said. But back to influencers. And they are really responsible for the success of social media. What was really interesting for me was the principle of authenticity. Everyone is talking about it. What does it mean? It's not necessarily truth. And of course, I talked to them about this. How do you see authenticity? And we reached a consensus that we follow them because of the authenticity, but it's really subjective. Everyone feels something different. Authenticity can mean anything, but it speaks to a person. And what is the difference between influencer and content creator for me? For me, the difference is content creators is everyone who posts stuff, and influencers are people who build a community, but they also have the potential to mobilize people using a call to action, to maybe write a politician or to buy a product. So a call to action is possible. There's an opportunity there. And this is really interesting to me, especially in politics, because what I see again and again is that this authenticity, this almost currency, does not mean to say the truth. We already know this. It's about having a feeling of truth. Because fact is that one influencer can, with just a few seconds, maybe during one reel, create a feeling that she feels like I do. She used the same language, the correct codes, the emotional triggers. And I call that strategically seeming authentic. She knows how to use feelings. That doesn't mean that all influencers are bad. No, not at all. But influencers are usually extremely they're experts at communication. And it's fascinating to see who can seem authentic and what can happen from that. And in that way, I know that if we look at the right wing, there's a complete ecosystem where systematically narratives are brought into communities to mobilize them. They work seemingly authentically. So these techniques are used daily, a lot, almost everywhere. And on the other side, there's us as users. me, the trust that I build with an influencer, that's real. My emotion is real. The decisions I make because of that are real. But the intention behind it does not necessarily have to be real. What I saw as well was a 19-year-old influencer. She had more influence than a bigger newspaper when talking about endometriosis. And if she knows how all this works, how emotions work, how trust is built, then she can not just influence opinion, but she can create realities. And that's a new power in democracy that many people don't understand yet. Maybe they speak about this one guy having a viral post, but the long-term effects are really, really fascinating. And the question I ask myself, how does this individual trust, this ability to seem authentic strategically, how can that lead to manipulation? How can you manipulate whole demographies, whole demographic groups? And this isn't possible in the analog space sometimes. So we have to talk about the platforms now. And I don't want to speak about the one-on-one, but how this happens. Because when I started talking to the influencers about algorithms, it was like a masterclass in strategic communication. One German influencer told me that right after Meta deprioritized journalistic content, then she posted bikini photos when talking about feminism. Because if sex has a higher priority than politics, so if sexy posting is prioritized higher, then she not only got more some 10,000 more views. And to understand how the algorithms on Meta works was enlightening to me. Another US influencer told me that when she talks about Black Lives Matter, then from a certain shop, she takes a product, links it, and then, of course, this video is pushed by TikTok. Because ideally, she uses the product and puts it next to her, and the algorithms see that, and then she can talk about anything because the algorithms just see the product and it gets pushed to communities she would never reach. And she can talk about anything then. So I learned a lot of those tricks and little hacks, and it was really fascinating for me. But this is about more. I really want to tell you that just by necessity, influencers gained a huge understanding of algorithms. It's not explicit knowledge, but it's more a feeling. It's implicit knowledge. And if you are talking to someone who already has a few 100,000 followers, then of course they are posting something that fits to their community, but also in the interlay between community and algorithm. So they adjust the angle. Maybe a song that's trending, maybe a certain time of day, maybe the sexy images, those little tricks and hacks. So this implicit platform capacity that they gained, the expertise that I want to talk about. And it's a fact. And this is neither good nor bad. It's just a tool. And fact is that if we talk about influences, if they can do that, then more people know it. Those are just the people I worked with. This is how I learned. But it's really fascinating, but it's also dangerous, obviously. Because this knowledge can be and is actively abused. In parts of my work, it's not just spending time with great people, but also having this gained knowledge that I collect. It might not be structured, but I can then try to embed these talks into a democratic process. And I'm working also in a think tank to make it understandable to policymakers. And the second part of my job is knowledge transfer. So as a second part, I can tell you there's a lot of interest trying to manipulate us every time you're online. We already saw that at rage baiting. We are always manipulated for several reasons.
And many people nowadays know that well, this leads to more reach. So you can create reach artificially by using this anchoring technique. This is simplified, but assume you have a state actor that has the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure, like bots or fake accounts. So we're not talking 15 to 20 fake accounts, but 20,000 that of bots that were shut down after the Romanian election. This is what I call digital infrastructure. We've got there was a bot attack identified against Ukrainians in Germany. So those are digital infrastructures. So there's a whole trench warfare going on the internet, and I've written a lot about this. I've written about cognitive warfare and specific threats, but I don't want to go into detail. I want to talk about the general mechanism behind it. And to do so, I want to explain this effect. I call it the rippling effect. So what is it about? Social media or any platform is like a pond. You throw a stone into the pond, it creates ripples. And depending on how interactive the post is, you can have more or less ripples. If it's a viral thing, something big, a disruption like the Trump attack or Rizzo's Destroy CDU video, there's interaction, and the algorithms will interpret this interaction as, yeah, that's something good. User retention, that's content other people could like, so it suggests it to other people. And what do we have then? Of course, the algorithm is going to push certain content. That is how viral phenomena work. The problem, of course, is that you can't really artificially create this sort of impact. It's more or less by chance. But what if you throw in many, many, many small stones? As I said, digital infrastructures, many, many small stones can also create ripples, small ripples, but many ripples. And the algorithm will interpret this coordinated activity as positive user engagement because it's programmed pretty simply. So it just sees the impact and not where it comes from. So algorithms are becoming unknowing accomplices. And we can see them that daily in different contexts all over the world. So content is strategically placed in societal discourse. It's not easy, but it's happening, and that's a problem. And even mediocre or bad content can have devastating effects, not because it's realistic, but because we're human. And if we see something very often, we consider it more legitimate because when many people talk about it, why shouldn't it be true? So through strategic manipulation, you can spread content. And the content is no longer the problem in itself. It's bigger than that. It's we need to talk about fact-checking, about content moderation, about lies. But what we don't talk about enough is the distribution effects or methods, because we could actually predict them, and we've neglected that, and we should do more about this. It's not a one-sided thing. So status quo there's highly effective methods that are being used every day to influence us, that influence our society, but that's nothing new. In November 3 years ago, ChatGPT was launched. I don't want to go into this too deeply either, but what does AI mean? It doesn't mean that something new was added. This is not a great innovation, but it just allows the generation of content to be much more fast. So AI is like an inflammable agent. So you can escalate things. And the problem is it's so accessible. So we have a problem that there's a lot of AI content, and that creates collateral damage. Studies or scientists are saying that 95% of the internet will soon be AI generated. And if everything can be AI, what even is AI? And that takes us to cynicism and a reality crisis. So with all of the manipulation we're facing anyway, this is reinforced. What does that mean for our future? So we see a systematic erosion of trust in our interaction spaces. And the borders between real grassroots movements and manipulation is becoming very thin. And debates are influenced, topics are planted. So if you visit X or any hashtag platform and you see a trending hashtag, you can't be sure whether it's actually legitimate or if it's been planted. But AI doesn't just change the way we manipulate. It will also shape who will be manipulated. So coming back to influencers. Or let's go one step further back. I've seen a lot of development in the past 2-3 years. Influencers are using their reach for politics more and more. We've seen that. 3 years ago, this already started, and it's only solidified itself. Meta, for example, is experimenting with AI bots, chatbots. And in winter 2024, they launched these AI chatbots based on real celebrities like Kylie Jenner. And those were digital personas. They just took their exteriors and called them Kylie Jenner. And of course, that's not Kylie Jenner. And this is a test phase to see whether this works. Can you build artificial relationships? What's the first feedback? And what we also saw was that AI is being launched to support creators. So it's offered to many people like influencers. So train the bot for your posts, and if you want to interact with someone, maybe if someone is searching for one of your posts from a few years ago, then you can use this bot to communicate to your followers. So yeah, that's sort of helpful and actually positive. And recently Mark Zuckerberg said that he wants to launch a whole AI companionship because he thinks that he doesn't have enough real friends in the world. So he's gotten a lot further in the past few years. And of course, his goal is to bind more users to his platform more strongly. So it's not just about user retention, but it's about keeping the monopoly so that people can't leave this digital space because the whole persona, the whole person is tied to it. So reiterating, us being human makes us vulnerable. How should I know if I'm actually watching a human or authentic content? Of course, you want to communicate with experts, and many people don't have that opportunity, and they react to this sort of content. This is dark, but it's not something we have to helplessly surrender to. How do we get out of this dilemma? It's easy to say we have to play the same game. We just have to be better. We need to launch counter campaigns, use the same means, have the same infrastructure, need to be more present, have more campaigns. Yeah, sure. In the short term, I would agree that's important because we won't be creating new facts that fast. But something the past few years also showed me is that this isn't sustainable in the long term. Interpersonal relationships online are extremely strong, and they're not always manipulative. You can promote information, voter information. So the business model is the problem. The business model that has become an attention machine, and it's almost mainstream knowledge how to use and abuse those systems. And my conclusion is that it's going to be those small networks that can break up the business model. One trend that could help is the fragmentation of social media. So a lot of right-wing niche platforms like 4chan and so on appeared, and after 2022, after Musk bought Twitter, the same happened on the left spectrum. Sam Altman talked about launching a new social media platform. Also in Germany, some new networks are being created, also on the right-wing extremist spectrum. So there's alternatives. So what I want to say is that it's extremely important to build interpersonal relationships, not just online, but also offline. Of course, offline relationships are very important. Our being human is being used against us, our longing for interaction, for community. So I don't want to plead for more or less tech. It's just important to create a framework where you can inform yourself, where you can choose whether you want to interact with AI chatbots. So it's about having a choice. And to do so, we have to break up the monopolies. The future of our digital democracy is not playing the game better. In the short term, yes. In the long term, no. We need to create something new. We need to reinforce our being human. And we can only do that together, and we need attention for that. That's it from my side. Thank you very much.